My name is Mitradeep, and today I'm going to teach you the analog electronics course. So this course is a basic course for electrical engineers and electronics engineers. So the purpose of this course is to teach you the different aspect of analog electronics. As this one is the very first introduction of different analog electronics design, so this course will be mostly dealing with analog electronics circuit analysis. So the design part will not be covered as such, but different aspect of the design will be discussed. But mostly the analysis part will be covered. So let us begin. So this is the outline of your presentation. So we'll start with the introduction, then we'll see why analog electronics is important, and then the basic parameters of analog designs, the bipolar and CMOS technologies, because there are two different technologies available for the analog electronics people. One is bipolar technology, that is BJTs, and another one is CMOS. Now bipolar is one of the devices that is very suitable for BJTs, these analog circuits. However, we cannot implement this bipolar technology because currently we are using mixed signal chips, or we are using analog electronic circuits along with the digital, and digital prefers CMOS. So I'll discuss this in a few moments or in later classes. But however, we will see that what is BJT and what is CMOS, and then we'll see some of the analog systems. Okay, so this is the outline of today's presentation. So in the introduction, I would say that VLSI is one of the technologies that came up in the recent days, which allows a large number of transistors to be integrated in a single chip. So previously it was like small scale integration, then medium scale integration. So small scale integration maybe say 100 transistors, integrating 50 and 100 transistors in a chip. Then it came a large scale integration. After medium scale integration it came large scale integration, maybe few hundreds. Then it came very large scale integration in thousands. So when we integrated thousands of transistors in a single chip, we call it very large scale integration. Now obviously when you want to integrate thousands of transistors in a single chip, it is required that each device, each transistor is of very small size, right? So the size requirement came into the picture. However, analog electronic circuit doesn't worry about the size and etc., because the circuit probably will require 10 transistors, maybe 50 transistors, maybe 100 transistors. So this is not a problem for analog circuits because number of transistors requirement is not that high. However, if you design a circuit with say 500 transistors, then it's a very big circuit. The analog people will say it's a very big circuit. However, generally it's say 10 transistors, 50 transistors maximum, more or less. And for digital people, they use a lot of transistors for their circuits in order to process it. Further, they need a very smaller channel length, because a smaller channel length are generally faster in response. However, analog people doesn't mind if the channel length is in microns, in 10 microns, or say even 20 microns. They won't mind. In fact, they are happy because if the channel length is higher, it has higher power rating. But the problem is, that is why I said that BJTs are preferred in case of analog electronics, but the problem is BJTs cannot be scaled down. We cannot make small size BJTs. So the large scale integration become a problem. Okay. And then we have a new technology which is currently known as ultra high ULSI, which is ultra large scale, say millions of transistors, which is integrated in a single chip. So this is a very new term which came up recently. This is ultra large scale. Now in case of digital, they use millions of transistors, and they need this kind of ultra large scale or VLSI, ULSI to make chips. Ultimately they want everything in a very small area. Everybody wants that. But as we analog people use say 50 transistors, 100 transistors, so it is not a big deal for us. And in fact, if you see the chip that are available nowadays, in the entire chip probably 10% area is kept for, or 10% of this total circuit is for say analog. So 95-96% is digital. Okay, so we also don't need very much space. Space is not an issue for us. However, power rating, biasing current, all these things are issues while you are designing an analog circuit. Okay, so in case of analog, I would say BJT is better compared to CMOS. However, we'll see why it is better and how it is, giving you an advantage over CMOS. However, we are bound to use CMOS because digital people use CMOS technology, and CMOS technology is the best possible option currently available, at least commercially, for digital circuits. It works faster, and as we are using the same chip, the analog people are bound to use CMOS technology for their analog design, even if it is not the best option. So currently you will see most of the chips available in the market are generally made of CMOS, but there are a few chips that are available which is made of BJTs, but very less. I mean, it's almost say 98% and 2%. Few analog chips are there which is made of BJTs, but mostly everything is in CMOS. Okay, so this is the why we look forward for high scale integration, the reason, and why we use CMOS instead of BJT, even if it is not the best option for analog circuits. So I told, and the possible technologies available for analog is BJT and CMOS. I already have covered. Now, why we need analog electronics? The reason behind is the market. I mean, we need to use them commercially, right? If you are using some technology that doesn't have any market, it doesn't have any commercial aspect, then people won't use. So the markets are mostly in wireless systems. Most of the wireless system use analog front ends. Okay, and whatever mobile phones you are using currently, everybody uses a mobile phone, right? So each mobile phone must have a wireless connectivity, at least for calling purpose. Those who are standard general mobile phones, and smartphones, you have wireless connectivity for internet as well. So these wireless circuits require an analog front end, because ultimately you have to convert the RF to different other processes. So wireless system is a big market for analog, and after wireless what comes is the optical system. So once the optical fiber communication came into the picture, a lot of analog circuits were required, because even if you have a fiber in both the ends of the fiber, you either need, say, photodiode or LEDs or lasers as source of light, and this is for detectors. So these things were required in optical systems. Although the fiber is just a medium to transmit the light, but you ultimately need a source to generate the light signal, and you need a destination where this light signal will be received. So in these areas we need analog circuits. So research has been started, and currently also a lot of research is going on optical analog systems. So optical system is another big market for this thing, analog circuits. And after that, what we have is the sensors. So the sensors industry also need analog circuits. Basically all the sensors initially provide you an analog signal. So mostly it will be an analog voltage signal, analog current signal that we need to convert to digital for further processing. But when you have a sensor signal, you at least need an analog front end here as well, and then you feed it to analog to digital converter, and then you start processing. Okay, so you need analog front end in sensors as well. Now most of these smart devices, so-called smart devices, smart television, smart refrigerator, smart washing machine, has multiple sensors. In fact, your smartphone, each phone has multiple sensors. It has proximity, it has accelerometer, it has light sensor, it has different other sensors as well nowadays. Especially those smartness is directly related to the number of sensors you have in the device. Now each device then need an analog circuit for processing. So there is a market in this direction as well. Then currently there is a requirement of memories. It's a never-ending requirement. If some mobile phone provides you 16 GB, you say that I need 64. If you buy 64, then after some time you will say that I need 128, then 256. The main memory requirement is increasing day by day, because one of the major reasons is your data size is also increasing. Now each video, each photo or images take a lot of memory. The high resolution images, high resolution videos requires a lot of memory, so you need a lot of memory as well. So in this case also you need analog circuits. So this microprocessor and memories, these also have requirement of analog circuits. So it is very important to study analog circuits. Now what is the requirement for analog circuits? What do we expect from analog circuit? The first requirement is it should have low power consumption. Now, your circuit should not consume a lot of power. In fact, nowadays the power is also an issue. If you see the mobile phones, you want the mobile phones to stay alive for at least 1 day, 2 days, at least a day it should stay alive. If it becomes dead in 1 hour, 2 hours, then it's not desirable, right? And in ideal case, it should stay, say, for months. That is the best possible case probably people are nowadays looking for. But anyways, in any case, what is your requirement? Your requirement is low power. Your circuit should not drain a lot of power from the mobile phone. That is what everybody wants. Second is the sensitivity should be high. Your circuit should be sensitive enough. As I said, that all the sensors require an analog circuit. So if your circuit is not good, it may happen that the sensor device, the maximum performance of the sensor will not convert into the performance. probably the sensitivity of the sensor itself is very high in the ideal condition. But if your analog circuit is not good enough, it may provide a very bad performance of the sensor. So it is important that your circuit is highly sensitive. Then low noise. Noise is always an issue in analog circuits. As I progress, I'll tell you what are the issues. But noise is always an issue. So noise means when you have a signal, it shows ripple, right? So this is basically the noise. Now this noise may come out of circuit itself. So you need a low noise circuit in order to operate these devices. So this is the requirement, the power, sensitivity and low noise. And then another aspect of analog circuit design is most of the circuits are custom design. That means manually you have to design the circuits probably each time for different devices. It's not like you have something ready, you bring it in and just plug in. It generally doesn't work in this way. So you need custom design every time, manual intervention, which is not the case for digital. Digital is automated. Most of the digital electronic circuits kind of automated, but in case of analog, you need manual intervention in every case. For example, if you have an analog circuit for certain sensor, certain say temperature sensor, it doesn't mean that you can use the same circuit for all the temperature sensors. Again, you make another temperature sensor, you may need to again rework on these circuits. So semi-customized is still possible, that you have some building blocks ready, you just bring those building blocks in and then rework on those to make the second circuit, but you need manual intervention, so it mostly customized. Okay, and mostly the circuit design depends on probably say application. As I said, one example like temperature sensor. Now you need the temperature sensor for measuring say body temperature, you need a certain kind of circuit. Now you need the same sensor for say measuring the temperature of an oven. Then you probably need to change your circuits based on the requirements. And in this direction you will find a new term came up, application specific integrated circuits, which is known as ASIC. So each circuit is application specific. Based on your application, you may need to design your circuit in different ways. Okay, so that's why people say that analog circuits are custom design. So you need manual interventions, which is another hectic job. So it's not easy to design an analog front end just like this. It may take time, and at the same time you have to reduce the area. You have to consider that you are not using too many transistors. Anyways, you will get say 10 to 15% space of the whole chip, and then you have to reduce the area because nowadays everybody wants everything to be very small. So these are different issues that we will discuss as we progress further. Okay, so that's why people say that analog circuit design is a kind of custom design. Now, this last thing is it has multi-dimensional trade-offs. Multi-dimensional trade-off means you have to take care of power, speed, gain, bandwidth, everything. You will find that when you are fixing the power issue, gain is reducing or bandwidth is reducing. So you cannot just control the power without considering speed, gain or bandwidth. So they all are interlinked. So this is multi-dimensional trade-off. This multi-dimensional trade-off thing is another big issue for analog circuits. So as we progress, we will discuss different aspects of analog circuits.